It's the time of year when proud parents want to show off their new baby to all the visiting relatives. However, health specialist Leah Sarich warns if that relative has a cold, they should not be holding baby.
Yes.
And I remember
it's so hard.
It's so hard as a new parent. You know,
I know.
It's awkward.
It is awkward, and you're so excited to show off the baby. And Grandma's only visiting for 4 days from Newfoundland, and she's come all this way to hold the baby.
But she puts down her Kleenex to pick up your baby.
It's
not
terrible.
good. And actually, this is a serious warning, right?
It is, and that's why I do it every year, because we really do have to take this seriously. So I spoke with pediatrician Dr. Ian Mitchell about this, and he explains just how serious RSV is, because that's what we're talking about today, RSV. So RSV is a virus. It's one of the commonest viruses in the entire world that affects humans. We actually develop very poor immunity to it, so we get it over and over and over again throughout the course of our lives. But it is very, very serious, and Dr. Mitchell explains just how serious it is in infants.
The younger the baby who gets it, the sicker they might be. So they'll start with a cough, which might go on for a day or two, a stuffed nose, which it makes it difficult for them to feed. Then they gradually speed up their breathing. Then you see the ribs pulling in. Then they find it more difficult to breathe. And then when we see them in the hospital, they're getting sort of oxygen, and about 1 in 5 of the children who are admitted are actually admitted to the intensive care unit.
They're admitted to the intensive care unit, so we know that is very, very serious. So there is no real treatment for RSV either. That's why it makes it a little bit tricky. So basically what they're doing when these children are hospitalized is they're supporting them while their little bodies deal with the virus. So they're providing them oxygen, they're keeping them hydrated. There are some medications, but it's unclear on whether those medications really do anything for those babies. So it's a really tricky thing to do, and we really don't want to have to deal with this. The good news is, however, that most infants will recover from it, but 50% of those infants will have recurring lung disease for 2 to 3 years after, and that disease looks a little bit like asthma, so you treat it like asthma, but that's a lot to deal with just from this one first infection. So it's very, very serious. So the season has already started here in Calgary. It just started within about the last week or so. They've had already some admissions to hospital with babies with RSV. But Dr. Mitchell says he does expect it to pick up in January and February, though there's about a 3-year cycle for this virus, so he expects the season might be a little less bad than it was last year. But the reason we do this story, of course, every year is because of all these visiting relatives. And here's Dr. Mitchell's message to parents.
Parents, of course, have to hug and look after the children. That's a given. But babies do not need to be hugged by everybody in the family. The family members may want to hug them. The baby couldn't care less. And if that family member has a little cold, that little cold to the family member might be the RS virus, which might cause a severe illness in the baby. So you would hope they would wash their hands carefully, but in fact it's better if you have a cold to stay away from the baby.
And that's the bottom line. If you have a cold, stay away from the baby. The part of the clip that I didn't put in there, that Dr. Mitchell with his lovely Scottish accent said, the parents, they have to be witches. They have to be witches. They have to be really, really careful about this. And we know it's very, very hard.
Is there anything else that a parent can do other than say, back away from
Stay
the child?
away from baby? Not really. It's because this virus has that problem where we don't develop that immunity. So there is a vaccine that is in the works, which is kind of exciting. It's still years away, but it's probably one of those vaccines that Dr. Mitchell says that it will actually be given to pregnant women so that the immunity will transfer through the placenta and protect the newborn baby. So we're still a few years away from that, but yes, it is on the horizon. So we'll keep an eye out for that.
And take my word for it, I had a friend whose child was in intensive care because of RSV. It's very serious, so do be careful.
Serious. Absolutely.
More information on your blog.
On my blog, you bet.
Health Specialist Leah Sarich, breakfasttelevision.ca is the